Hello, and welcome to another session at Adobe DITAWORLD 2024. My name is Leroy Steinbacher. I'm a solution consultant at Adobe, and today I'm going to be covering connecting worlds from data to delivery, leveraging external data sources in Adobe Experience Manager Guides. So today what I'm going to talk about is how AEM Guides now offers out-of-the-box connectors for integration with external databases such as JIRA, MySQL, PIMs, PLMs, and many more. So in this session, I'll show you how to connect guides specifically to a MySQL database and how to reuse that content in a single data topic, also within multiple topics in a data map. So the key takeaways for today, we're going to show how to connect to a MySQL database from AEM Guides. And then once we have that connection, we're going to look at content mapping and how we can map the elements of that table within a topic or a map within DITA, so that content can be dynamically synced. And then what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to generate topics from that connection in order to keep a dynamic relationship between your source data and your content that you are referencing within your data topics. So with this external database integration, it really helps maintain content in data that has a single source of truth within a database. So things like specifications, product details, any kind of dynamic content that's in a database that can potentially change over time. With this integration and connection with guides, it ensures that your data content is synced up with the content that was within this database. So, a lot of times we hear about these challenges, and as a technical writer in my past, I've experienced them firsthand when you're getting source content from a lot of different sources or maybe even electronic sources. Sometimes there can be information silos, right? Maybe you don't even have access to the database. You have to get it from somebody else and they have to email it to you. Or if you do have access, there's manually copying and pasting of content from a database to your topic. And that can take time. It can be costly. And then it can also lead to errors, right? If there's manual processes, there's always the opportunity to make a mistake or a typo or miss something. And so the other result is then your content velocity is low, right? If you're doing a lot of manual processes in order to get your updates out, you're not going to be able to publish your content and get it to the market as quickly as you want to. And then sometimes content automation is blocked by missing information. So maybe you'd like to have some content in place, but without the automatic reference and link, it's just not there. So when we look at external data source integration, these are some of the main systems, but there are definitely countless more databases that can be supported. One of them would be JIRA. An example of a JIRA database connection would be maybe you have some changes in JIRA and some release notes or some sort of project tracking information that you would like to include in your document. Maybe you have a requirement to say what's changed in this version or what's new. Some of that content may live in JIRA. Instead of copying and pasting it, you could actually have an integration to connect to that JIRA and get that information, pull it into a topic, and then you have it ready to go for your document. There also may be some data in a MySQL database that we're looking at today, some specific product information, some product specifications or details. Also, another example would be a PIM or a PLM system, right? So you may have external systems that are managing your engineering and your engineering process documents like bill of material and other such things. If you're able to actually pull in something like a BOM, then you have a starting point of how you could create your document based on the parts that are within that system if you have that integration within your data maps. And there's more. Let's just take a look at some other examples of the other external database connectors that can work with AEM Guides. So, for example, JIRA, Oracle, Adobe, Magento, Apache, MySQL, and many more. So if we take a look at the manual process, how external data is manually added to data content. Your source data is stored in one of these databases. And like we talked about, without actual integration, sometimes you have to ask the IT team to source that data. Sometimes you have to copy and paste that data yourself, or sometimes you manually have to enter that data. And then you can pull that content into AEM guides. But the whole point is then to eliminate this process here in the middle and create a direct connection between your database, external database, and your authoring environment and guides to eliminate some of these manual processes that could lead to extra costs or extra time and content errors. So we'll take a look at content mapping and topic generation. So how can external data be integrated to generate data content? So on the left-hand side, we have our external data sources, like we mentioned, JIRA, MySQL, PIM, and PLM. Once this integration takes place, you can have some APIs for these connectors. And then within these, once you have the API connectors and you're mapping certain data to your data topic, then you can use these data mapping templates that will say, okay, for this particular this particular table in my database, I want to map it to a section of my topic. And then once you have this mapping done, then that dynamic topic that can be generated and updated based on changes in your database can be used then as a source of truth within your various topics within your maps or content chunks. So what you can do is you'll have some dynamic content being pulled in to make it available for a topic. And then for that dynamic piece, you can have content references or key references that will pull that generated data content into different places as needed within your document map. And so then what the author can do then is update that content and then publish the latest changes as PDF, HTML, or go directly to an AEM site. So there are some steps to enable this integration. First of all, you have to set up a data source. Identify the source of data from which the data will be pulled. Look for that configuration, and this is within the tool. We'll go over that in the demo section of this presentation. You want to create connection configurations to pull data from the configured data source. So that's all about setting up the connection and getting that connection in place. The next section is customize a velocity template, and that essentially is the mapping. It's a filter that will say, okay, from this table, what is it that we want to pull into our content, and how do we want to represent that as data elements within our source files. And then the third step, content reuse and the consumption process. So you want to define how to use this ingested content. So like I said, this content can come in, and it comes in usually within the context of a section. Then you can take that information. It's going to have a defined ID, and then you're able to now pull that information into various parts of your document and reuse that. So you're reusing your source, but that source is actually dynamically connected to the database that populates the source with the information. And you can set up automation rules. Currently out of the box, these are manual processes with updating your connection to updating your content, syncing it from the database, and then having republishing your content that is using that data. But that can be automated depending on whatever workflows or rules you want to set up in your process. And then finally, publish manually or automatic. So again, you can have a automatic publish if you want to have changes automatically pushed out there, or if you want some sort of review step within the workflow, then you can also include that. So here's an animation showing the automation possibilities. So you can see here on the left-hand side all your data source information coming into your connectors, and once you have the updated data, then that will go through the mapping templates that will push that content into your data topics. Your data topics can reuse that content in a number of different ways, to content reference or maybe chunking some content, and then you can publish that to PDF, HTML, or AEM sites. And now let's switch over. I'm going to have a brief demo to show some of these things that we've highlighted. I'm going to switch screens over to my browser, just so you can see we are on the landing page for Adobe Experience Manager. And the demo today I'm going to do is going to be with an AEM Guides, which is the DITA CCMS included with AEM. But before we go into the guide screens, I want to also just show you the MySQL workbench that I'm working with. I have this running locally, so if I go into this instance, I have, like the location, username, password. It's already set up, and these are the databases that we'll be looking at today. You can see I have a couple different ones in here. The one I want to look at today is under Classic Models, and the tables I'm going to look at would be products. So if I click on that, that'll open up the table, and then also product lines. I think I already had these open. Now there we go. Okay, so now what we can do is we have these data tables, and what we're going to do is we want to pull some of this content into some of our data content within guides. So this is going to be the source of truth. These are going to be the databases that have the information that we'll be integrating into topics and maps within guides, products, and product lines. So if I minimize this for now, go back to guides. So I'm in the landing page here. So I'm going to click on Tools, and then under Tools, I'm going to click Guides, and this is where we can set up I'm in the wrong instance. This is a local instance, it's similar to on-prem. What I wanted to do is go to my Cloud SDK. This is where I have the tools under Guides to connect a data source. So if I click here, you can see I have a couple data sources already connected. One was for the two different tables that I had in there. So just to see what this looks like, if we select Edit, you can see you're just giving it a name. It can be any name you want. And then you want to point to the template path. And there are some default templates in these paths that will be used either for SQL or JIRA. So they're already in place, SQL. And I'm not sure if these are necessary. I think these fill out by default. If you need to change those, I think you can. And then this is the sample query that's going to be set up. So just a starting point, when you want to do a database query, you can have some content there to start out with. So I'm just going to cancel out of that. Then the other thing that you need for your connection is the authentication. So if I go to Reconnect, so you can see this is also when you set up this connection, you have to have authentication type, which is out of the box, you just select it. And then you would be using the username and password that was created when you either created this MySQL database, or you would be getting this from your admin who runs the database. So I'm just going to connect for my password, and then this would be the driver that you're using, the MySQL driver. And then finally, the URL that points to the database. I happen to have mine locally, so you can see here it's localhost 33006. And it's Classic Models is the table that we're connecting to. So you can see here, Classic Models. So that's what that points to. All right, so I'm going to test connection. Yay, connection successful, so we're all good here. So this is how I have these configured. I'm going to switch over to my other instance where these are also already configured. So if we go to AEM, and then we go to Guides, and we go to, and you can see I have a favorite set up in my favorites where we can put some folders and things we're working on for this demo. But if I expand these tools on the left-hand side, you can see I have a menu for data resources or data sources. So I'm going to select that. So you can see I have these data source connections that we just set up, and I want to go to this one's MySQL. Now there's a few things that are already set up in here, but I'm just going to recreate some of these. There's three things we want to do. We want to push that content to what we call a snippet, and what that does is it allows us to maybe modify the content. This is kind of similar to copying and pasting, but you actually are getting the content directly, so, and you can manipulate it. You can do different things with it. Basically, it's just giving you a usable piece of content. It's not connected directly to the database. You can always go back and generate a new snippet, but it's just giving you that content in a way that you may want to, use it for whatever purpose. So if we go to products, I'm just going to edit this so you can see what goes in here. So the data query is going to be basically saying, I want star from products. So for that table, I want everything. And so, and then the mapping template, we already have that set up. We want this to be the entire table because we're getting the entire table. And I'm going to go ahead and fetch that content. So I'm getting everything from products. You can see here, this is products. So it's pulling everything from this table. Okay. And so then I want to give this a name, a generator name, which I've already done, snippet products. So I'm going to say fetch, and now I'm going to say save. And then I want to do the same thing for product lines. If we go back to our database, you can see product lines. So these are all the products, and you can see they're motorcycles, classic cars, trucks, and buses. If we go to product lines, we see now, okay, we have a description of classic cars, motorcycles, trucks, and buses. So just some additional information about your data. Okay, so we want to get a snippet of that as well. So I'm going to go back here to product lines. We'll edit this again. So this is where the query is going to be slightly different, right? I don't want the whole table, because if we go to the table itself, you can see there's a couple empty rows. There's HTML description and image, which hasn't been populated with any content yet. So what I'm going to do is I say, I just want product line, it's the first column, text description, second column. So that's where my data query is a little bit different. So I'm selecting product line, text description, those are my column names from product lines table. Still using the same data mapping template. I've given it a name where I want this to go, and that's what appears here under content snippets, fetch. So you can see it's pulled in that content now. So I've just basically, for those snippets, I've just pulled in whatever existing content is in that database at this point in time. So what I can do, if I go to my favorites, and I've already created a folder for this, I'm going to create a topic. And this is going to be snippets. Put it in my snippets folder. And now I'm going to open the topic up. And what I can do now is I can go back to my data sources. I've created these snippets for those two different tables. So now I can go into my content where I want to have this, and I can say, I want to say product lines. I want to say insert. So it's inserting this content into my topic. And then underneath here, okay, I want to also have now the details of each one of those products. So I'm going to go here where in the cursor where I want it. So I'm going to go here and say snippet insert. Okay, so now I have the table. So you may ask, well, so why would you, but this is not dynamically linked. I'm just inserting a snippet. Why don't you want it dynamically linked? Well, like again, we'll show that in a second, but maybe you might want to use this content, just pull it in. Maybe it's not expected to change. Maybe you don't want to have a dynamic connection. You just want this information. You want to modify it. This is giving you the opportunity to now, okay, I have this in here once, and I'm going to just work with it, maybe change some things, but it's not going to have the dynamic connection. So I'm going to save that, save it as a new version. I'm going to go ahead and close this. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to now go over to our favorites again. And I'm going to create a new topic. We're going to put a table in a topic, and then we're going to put all of these, a whole bunch of topics for each table row within an individual topic. So we'll look at how those are generated. If we go back to our data sources and we go to topic generators, and I have several of these already set up, but this is the one I want to work with. I want to work with product topic. So I'm going to edit this one. And what this does is the same thing. I'm going to say I want to select star from products. So I'm getting everything from the whole table. And then I want to map this to an SQL table. And you can see you have the, you can either do a table, or what we'll do next is then we'll do a single row for each topic. But for now, we'll just get the whole table in. And then we've got the generator name products topic. So all the products are going into the topic. For our output configuration, this is where we're going to put this content. And I believe I already have that set up to where that folder is. And then this is going to be the name of that topic that I want to have. So if I fetch that, here's the generated, the preview of the content. So I'm going to say save. And now I'm going to now say generate. And you have the option, if you're generating a new, if you're doing this multiple times, you can either save it as a new version or just overwrite. So what it's doing is it generated a topic with a, that has a dynamic link to that content. So if we go back to favorites, now we go under, let me just do a refresh here. They have to, I think, refresh this. Let's see, where did it go? I think I need to update that path. Go back to data sources, products topic, edit, output configuration. Let me browse. And I can also browse to go to my favorites. Let me make sure I'm pointing to the right folder, MySQL database demo. There we go. Okay. So now we want to have topics, table, and a topic. That's where I want that to go. All right. Save and generate. Okay. I think it put it in the last place I saved it. But now if we go back to our favorites and we refresh, now we have our topic. Okay. So if we open this up, this is going to be the dynamic topic that is pulling in that content. So you can see, though, actually it's not really a topic, that the mapping actually creates this as a section. And so what this does is every time I make a change to my database and regenerate this content, it's going to regenerate just this section that includes this table. So then what I can do then is now, because I want to be able to use this within a topic, everything that you publish within DITA has to be within the context of a topic. But now this is my single source of truth. So this can be like kind of my content library that I'm using, or a collection file that I'm referencing with a content reference. But instead of this being the source of truth, the source of truth is actually in the database, and I can refresh this section anytime there's a change to the database. So if I want to put this table in a topic, I'm going to go ahead and create in this folder a new topic. And this is going to be my table topic. Create. Okay, and I'm going to open that up. And just to make sure this is version none, I want to just say this is a new version so it exists in the system. All right, so now I go to my table topic, and what I can do now, so now I'm in the context of a topic. Now I can just add a content reference. So I'm going to click here in my wizard, content reference, and I want to make sure that I'm browsing to the correct file, favorites, database demo, table and a topic. Okay, this is it. So I'm going to select that, and I want to have this section as my content reference. So boom, there it is. So I've got my dynamic section that's connected to the database. I'm referencing it within this topic, so I'm going to save this as a new version, new file. Okay, so if we look at the source, you can see that the source is a conref that points to this topic that I'm using as a connected link with the database. and this to this ID, which is SQL data. This is my ID. So if I go to this topic here, look at the source, you can see my section ID is SQL data. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to make a change. So let's say we want to, let's say the database is making some sort of change for us based on product updates. So I'm going to go over here to products, and we are going to, let's just say with this Harley Davidson Ultimate Chopper, there's going to be a name, Ultimate Chopper. They wanted to give it some flair. Dude. Okay, so we've made a change to the product name, and then what I need to do in my database is now I want to apply that change. Okay, so I'm updating my database. So now if we go back over to guides, okay, and we go back to our data source, and I am just going to close these for now. Let's see. Close this for now, go back to my data sources, and now I'm going to regenerate this. Save it as a new version. Okay, so so we can just make sure we have the update. We can go into the preview, and you can see we have now the name modified within our data. Now, if we were to go back to our favorites and open up this products topic data, we've got a new name here in our section that's linked to the database. And then if we open up I'm not sure what happened with this conref. Let me just create it again. This happened to me the first time. I think what happens is when there's an update, it generates a new ID. So now we have a GUID. I'm not sure why the GUID wasn't in place before, but now we have the GUID, so that should stick. So I'm going to now just insert that content reference again. I think it's still pointing to it correctly. There we go. All right, so now we have Ultimate Chopper Dude. All right, so then the other thing we can do, let's say we want to have instead of having a table with this information, maybe we want to have a map, and we want to have each one of these rows as a topic. So that's another option when we're pulling in content into guides from a database. So let's go back to our data sources, and if we click on this one here, products topic map, let's just take a look to see what that looks like. I hit edit, fetch configuration is very similar, selecting from products. This is my mapping template. But instead of saying table, I'm saying SQL data single. So it's separating those rows. And I'm generating a name for this, so I know what it is here on the left-hand side. If I want to generate it again, I can go ahead and fetch this. So you can see now it's just actually, instead of pulling in the table, it's pulling a single row. And you can see it's updated with my new product name. Output configuration. Here we're going to also now, let's just make sure we're putting it in the right spot. Favorites, MySQL database demo, topics and map. I'm going to select that one. Okay. And then this is going to be my naming convention because it's going to be generating a lot of files, a lot of topics based on each row. So I need to have naming convention. And then if I select down, you can see I have generated map. And then I'm just giving my map a name, products. So I'm going to set save and generate. And I'll go ahead and say save as a new version. So this is going to take a little bit longer because what it's doing is it is creating all of those topics for each row and a map to contain them all. So now if we go back to my favorites, I'm just going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And if I go back to now, I'm going to refresh this folder. You can see I have a whole bunch of topics for each one of those rows, but then here I have this products, which is my map. So if I open this up and I take a look at a preview. You can see I have now one topic for each one of those rows. And we have the fun name for this particular motorcycle. So now what we can do is we can actually combine this into a document that we can publish. So what I'll do here is I've already set up a map in my favorites, a master map. So let's just go ahead and open up this master map, master products map, and I'm going to open it up. So it's just a map with nothing in it. I'm going to go to my favorites and I'm going to add a few things. So from the snippets, I'll just go ahead, just for fun, add the snippets topic. And this is where I can modify it, do whatever I want. It's not directly connected. Then I can go here. And so this is actually my database. So I don't want to pull this in. This is just a section, but I want to pull in the topic that references that with a conref. So that's my table. And then I want to then pull in all those topics. So since I have a map already in place, I can actually just pull this map in here, and then that'll be a map ref. All right, so I'm going to save this, save it as a new version, and then I'm going to go ahead and generate this output. I'll publish it to a site. Success. All right, so if I view output, it's now going to take me to the master product map. So you can see I have different sections for all these topics. The first one is snippets. So that's just that table. Remember, I pulled in the description, and you can see here that there's some modifying of rows and things that you can do to make this a little bit more visible, a little more readable. But we have the snippets for the description of the products, as well as a listing of all the products. And then we can see here, this is my table topic. Oh, that didn't come through. But you can see my classic cars, motorcycles, each one of those topics came through based on the rows from the database. So just curious, I want to see what happened with that topic, presets, author favorites, scroll up. Table topic. Not sure what didn't. Well, not sure why that came through because it's still showing up right here. But anyway, so that's a good example of how you can take content from an external database, create a connector within Guides, and that connector then is available as a data source. And then with these different data sources, you can pull in that content as a snippet. You could pull in a table as an individual topic, or you could actually pull in the table rows as individual topics and have them all show up in a map. And now the beauty is, now that this mapping is all in place, if I were to go back here and say, oh, I don't like dude. Oh, that's not professional. I want to change that. If I can backspace this out of there. All right, so I'm going to apply, save it, finish. All right, so we've just made a change. We have all our stuff in place. I'm not even going to save that. I'm going to close this, go back to my data sources. So I want to regenerate my snippets. Or just preview. That's the one that I didn't change. You can see then my snippet has already been updated. And if I update let's go ahead and just update my topic. All right, so if I go now to my favorites and my topic table, this is okay, so now the dude is gone. And then if we go to the topic that references it, this has also been updated based on the change to the database. Okay, where can I find more information? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is where there's some useful links to get documentation on the things that we went over within this demo. Here's a link to configure your data source connector. And then here's some documentation on how to set up these different type of topics and snippets and maps that we looked at in the demo. And then also here's also a link to see if you want to modify the templates. The templates I used in this demo were out of the box setup. But you may want to make some changes to maybe manipulate different ways of where those database elements are the database content is connecting to your DITA template. So in summary, we looked at how to connect AEM guides to an external database. We went through, and then through that connection, we created a couple templates for pulling in snippets, pulling in a topic based on a database table, and then also pulling in a number of topics for each row and combining that information within a map. And then we looked at making changes to the database, and then how to automatically or how to manually go in and fetch that new content, and then generate your output based on that. But like we discussed earlier, there are some ways of adding some automation to any of those steps in the process if you want to have it more automatic. So that's it for me today. I hope my session has given you some good ideas about content automation and how you can pull in content from an external database, map it to maps, topics and maps within guides, and then publish that content to a number of different output types. Thanks for joining the session. And if you're interested in the topic of translation, stay tuned. After a short break, my colleague Kunwar Vikrant Singh will be joining us and presenting on Lost in Translation Management, how Adobe Experience Manager Guides streamlines multilingual content management. Kunwar will shed light on the topic of translation management with AEM guides. So thank you again for your attention. If you have any further questions, just post them to the chat, and I and my colleagues will be happy to answer them. Have fun at Adobe DITAWorld today and tomorrow, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks. Bye.